You are watching Access LaPorte County Channel 97. Coming up next is the December 12th meeting of the Michigan City Water Works Board. You can find more information for this meeting at www.accesslaportecounty.org.
We'll call the meeting of the Water Board to order. First item on the agenda, approval of minutes from the meeting of November 28th.
Motion to approve the minutes on November 28, 2023.
So second.
Motion and second, we approve the minutes from the meeting held November 28th. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Purchase orders.
Okay, before you have a list of 4 purchase orders. The first purchase order is to Ferguson. This is a tap sleeve for a fire service request that came in for $725. The second item is to Midwest Meter. These are 2-inch turbo heads for stock. This is for meter reading equipment, the meters themselves, for $4,120.80. The third item is to Fastenal. This is marking paint. We usually order a pretty large quantity at one time to get a discount for $1,078.80. And the last one is to Eurofins. This is analysis of a water heater, of some material that came from a water heater at 221 Old Mill Road. Customer had questions about what the material is. Most likely it's hardness and those sorts of things, but we are going to go ahead and have a lab analyze it to make sure that that's all that's in there for $1,050.
And make a motion to accept the list of purchase orders dated 12/12/23.
Second.
Motion and second that we approve the list of purchase orders dated 12/12/23. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. List of claims.
Motion to approve the list of claims dated December 12, 2023.
Second.
Oh,
Oh,
is somebody missing a pack of them?
I have mine.
I may not have gotten mine.
Oh,
Pass that down if you would. Thank you.
so now I got
I'll second it.
Okay. Motion and second, we approve the list of claims dated December 12th. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Bad debt list.
Make a motion to approve the bad debt list dated December 12th for bookkeeping purposes only. Second that.
Motion second, we approve the bad debt list dated December 12th for bookkeeping purposes only. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, approval to participate in the PFAS indemnification lobbying efforts by Owens Public Affairs Group.
Okay. In your packet, you have a copy of the agreement. So Bose McKinney Evans is, they're the attorneys that have done our rate case stuff for us, and they're the ones that have been providing us information regarding the PFAS settlements. Those are those forever chemicals we've talked about a few times. And one of the concerns that we have is that water and sewer utilities, number one, we didn't know it was in there. Number two, we didn't know that it was so hard to break down, and the consequences of these chemicals existing in the water and sewer systems. So what they've suggested is a lobbying effort through Bose Public Affairs Group. It's a arm of their company that would lobby state legislators in Indiana to put together indemnification legislation that water and sewer utilities, especially those that end up having problems with PFAS in the water or the sewer utility plants release out into nature, that those utilities can't be sued because the utilities didn't know this problem existed, and some utilities are taking every action they can now. And there's a lot of, the companies that manufactured this stuff, they had a huge settlement opportunities that were out there, which we've talked about in the past. So, obviously, whenever a company says that, they're settling, they say it's, well, we're not at fault for anything, we're just settling to get it done with. Billions of dollars of settlement money tells me that they knew they were going to lose pretty bad if it went into full lawsuit. So this is basically to try and keep us as utilities from facing issues in the future if people determine that, let's say they have a cancer that was caused by PFAS and there was found PFAS in a utility's drinking water. No, we don't have that in our drinking water. I'll make that clear. We've done all the testing. Lake Michigan is actually really low on PFAS, which is very good. And our treatment already takes out what little is in Lake Michigan. We've had multiple tests, and so far those have all come back that way. But this will help. This is going to help prevent future legislation, future legal maneuvers to try and sue the utilities for the PFAS situation. They anticipate working on this for 12 months. The total amount they anticipated is $5,000 out of our utility. They're bringing multiple utilities together for this. So basically, we would be getting billed about, I believe it was $460 some a month. $416 per month is what we would be getting billed for this lobbying effort. So my recommendation is that we would participate in this effort to protect our utility and others in the state of Indiana from needless litigation.
All right, any questions or comments? I think this is a smart move.
We need a motion? Okay. Make a motion to approve to participate in the PFAS indemnification lobbying efforts by Bose.
I'll second it.
There's motion second, we participate in PFAS litigation lobbying effort by those in an amount not expected to exceed $5,000. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. The business plan.
In your packets, there are 3 pages. I had sent you those earlier. These are the corrected pages, page 11. Also, the Appendix B and Appendix C. The reason why those Appendix B changed and page 11 changed because after reviewing, going back through everything, I remembered that one of the labor positions, when we agreed in the contract, we made it a locator position. So we weren't missing a laborer, that person just became a locator. So it changed the title and it moved them out of the group of laborers. So I corrected the organizational chart to cover that, and that also adjusted the count of vacant positions at this time. Additionally, we had an employee leave us while I was in the process, while this was all going on, so it was also updated to show that employee had left us for another job in another company. And then Appendix C, there were some tweaks to that particular capital improvement plan. Some additional dollars put on some of the projects that are out a few years, but those aren't those are still, they would still have to go through the whole process of engineering and design to get an actual dollar amount. These are just projected amounts, particularly the ones that are highlighted in yellow. But in the 2024 numbers, I had to put a couple items in that were missed. There were a couple of distribution pieces of equipment and a couple of trucks that came in under the radar that are due for replacement. And I'd like to make sure I put them in the plan for replacement rather than taking a chance on them starting to nickel and dime us to death. So just going over the business plan in general, we'll start looking, we could go ahead and start looking at the capital plan. The rate study and rate case projection, I received additional information from, we would be involving a rate attorney when we do that. We'll be involving the rate attorney. We'll also be involving a accounting firm to help put the numbers together. And then they'll all be doing things like going through litigation through the IURC. And then we also anticipate having some expense from our engineering firm for them to review and be able to provide assistance for that. So that number had to be bumped up a bit based on the information I've received. I did continue, I did put back into this capital plan the lead service replacement program. The brass is becoming more available. And I think it would be good for us to start attacking that in full force. And I think that we may end up with some additional, if we need to in the future, we might even be able to keep those folks on and do some main replacements. Because we've got a lot of water mains that are very old. And so it may be time to start looking at doing some of that in advance of waiting for it to fail. I did, in this, I have a few projects that are in the works right now as far as water main projects and distribution. We didn't have a lot in the booster stations because there's more anticipated in a couple of years, assuming that we have a bond, that we're going to we'll need items for a bond in the future. And the specific projects at the filter plant and some of the equipment for distribution that came from the needs that the staff in those departments brought to my attention. We discussed them and determined that they're important projects to attack. So, for example, we see online turbidity analyzer replacement for $44,000. Each one of those units is $11,000, so we'd be replacing 4 of them. But we're not going to do all of them in 1 year. We're going to break them up into a couple of years so that the intention is that in the future when they start to fail, they're not all going to fail at once. It's kind of like changing your headlights. You do one and then you wait a few months before you do the other one. So they don't both burn out on the same day. And so a lot of the activity in there is a lot of our basic activity. We do have those 2 large crew trucks in here again. We will be doing something with those. One of those crew trucks at this point has basically been rendered unusable at the moment. It has a significant problem with the turbocharger, and the initial analysis by the garage that we took it to was it was going to total out around $17,000 to fix it. It's a lot of money to put into a truck that we need to get rid of. We are getting a secondary quote from another facility. We're just having trouble locating facilities that can handle that size of truck, that are local enough to get that truck to. So we are working on getting other quotes on that. But obviously I don't want to spend a bunch of money fixing something that we're gonna just get rid of. And of course, we'll look for ways to keep whatever costs we can down. These are just budgetary numbers. Try and do it for less money than we budget, if we can. Does anybody have any questions on the capital at this point? And then Appendix D is the operating expense forecast. I actually got some good news since this was put together. I opted not to update it and change it just because I'd rather err on the side of caution with regard to expenses. I did receive notification that our insurance, liability, business liability, all those, is anticipated to actually go down this year, not up. So we anticipated an increase in the budget and plan, I should say. And I just found out that we're going to be expecting a decrease. So.
Do we know how much?
Ballpark around 4.5%.
And do you know what it's attributed to?
A lot of it is actually our workers' comp, because our claim dollars gone down. They use the previous 3 years, and so we're getting away from a couple of really expensive claims that happened 4 years ago. So that's working to our favor. We have the salaries and wages built in here. The number that's there is based on a budget of 4% increase for non-union, and then the increase that was planned through the union, through the union contract. The employee benefit, we did receive a ballpark figure on the health insurance, but we don't get an official number until April. So we did go with a more conservative number for an increase than what we were told, just to be on the safe side. Purchase power, we bumped that a bit because frankly, NIPSCO's had good success with bumping their rates, and we end up paying for that on our end. And so we used the numbers from where we were this year and added a percentage to it to build that up. Chemicals has been kind of the same thing. The chlorine industry in particular, which we use for our disinfectant, and we use large amounts of, the manufacturers have made a concerted effort to drive the price of the product up by eliminating production capacity. And this is actually, I actually found this on their investor website for the stockholders. I found it in their reports that was their game plan, was to reduce production capacity to drive the price up, supply and demand. So we've been eating a pretty good chunk of increase for the last couple of years on chlorine. People we buy it from are not the problem, it's a manufacturing issue. They're stuck passing along increases that they have to pay. And then our materials and supplies and contracted services, we looked at where we were as of the end of October, and took those numbers and put a little extra money on it to be conservative with our plan. We did bump up the payment in lieu of taxes a little bit because we increased it $10,000 That was to cover that $10,000 that we're giving the city towards mayoral salary. And that ordinance that they passed and requested out of us. But then the rest of it is the same amount that it has been over the last several years. The $444,000 in payment in lieu of taxes. Since we're not a taxed entity, it's a pretty common activity for water utilities that are operated in a manner similar to us, especially with our separation from the city on things. Our bond interest expense, that's all pretty much straightforward. Those are already calculated and planned for the year. And our water and sanitation, those numbers came down from where they had been in the past. That's because we made some modifications to how we operate the water treatment plant, and we're not putting as much waste out to the sanitary district as we used to. And that decrease in the amount of water that we're sending to them is a decrease in our cost. So it's working out. So far, so good. And we wanted to run it for a year or so to make sure it's going to be good for the long haul. Let's see. Needless to say, we are experiencing equipment, materials, chemicals, all those things are having, they have inflation built into them. We're not immune to it. So we do know that, we are getting to a point where there were months this last year where we did not do the extra transfers that we normally do. We did all the transfers we have to do. We've met all of our debt obligations, all of those things, but we may not have put money into the improvement fund in a month. And usually that's because we were also spending money that would have come from the improvement fund anyway. Like if we're going to put $37,000 in and we spend $40,000 of the improvement fund project in a month, it's kind of a wash. But we are getting to a point where we see, and it's been 10 years since we had our last rate adjustment. The last rate adjustment went into effect in 2015. So we've been building towards this anyway, but the intention would be that we, by the end of Q1, have everybody in line to begin the rate case development, and then go through the process of developing a rate adjustment with the intention of filing it hopefully by probably by the end of Q2 or earlier, and eventually then getting through all of the activity that has to go on with that, with the intention of hopefully having new adjusted rates early in 2015 or 2025. Sorry. So 10 years is a long time to go without adjusting your rates. What that amount will be at, we don't know. I did a calculation on a napkin, so to speak, but I don't want to talk about that. It's a public thing because I want to have the experts give us what they think where we need to be, as opposed to what I pulled together. I was told I wasn't probably too far off, but still. We do have, I have a phone call tomorrow, or a Zoom meeting tomorrow with Wessler Engineering. There's a few more questions that they have to just get things nailed down. And then they should be able to provide us our comprehensive plan, which is an item that we need for this to go forward, because that includes a lot of capital. It lists out a bunch of capital projects and what they calculate the cost to be for those projects. And those would be the numbers that we would use in developing a bond amount for the big projects, rather than my numbers. Mine are best guess estimates. Theirs are going to be a little more detailed, because that's what they do. Does anybody have any questions on what provided? Are there any concerns with the dollar amounts or the plan?
I don't.
Obviously, we do still have one more meeting prior to the end of the year. So if the board wished to table until that meeting on the 26th of December, that's a possibility too. It's your call, this board.
What's the board's pleasure?
I'm fine with it.
Diane's okay with it?
Davis, Andy?
It's good.
So do we need to,
Motion on it?
we'll have to vote on it, yeah.
Somebody wanna make a motion to approve the business plan for 2024?
I make a motion to approve the 2024 business plan for the Department of Waterworks.
I'll second it.
Motion second, we approve the business plan for the year 2024. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much, appreciate that. We'll do our best to hit it and not exceed it. All right.
All right, approval of the non-union employee salaries.
As discussed in our executive session, I'd like to make a motion to approve the 2024 non-union employee salaries as presented. I'll second that.
There's a motion second that we approve the non-union employee salaries as discussed in the executive session for the year 2024. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Old business,
Under old business, we did meet earlier today because we were intending to have our annual board dinner, but due to my health issue plus board member Fishker is unavailable, would like to see if you would be interested in rescheduling the board dinner for January 9th. And we don't have, there's no need to vote on it. But we'll go ahead and do the board dinner on January 9th. And that board meeting will then begin at 6:30 as opposed to 7. So at our next meeting, we'll have the list of meetings for the year. And I'll make sure that's part of that list for presentation at our next meeting.
all right. Any other old business?
Not at this time.
New business?
Under new business, so last Tuesday, or the last meeting on that Tuesday, I handed you all the business plan. And that very next morning walked in here to find that our boiler had blown apart. Fortunately, no major damage, and we were very lucky. Wayne Heating and Cooling has been doing our work on our equipment, and they were able to actually track down parts and get it fixed. So we ran for a little over a week with a temporary electric furnace here on the floor making a bunch of noise, that they lent us. And basically where we're at right now is they don't know how much the parts are because they just had to get them. And unfortunately, due to the age of our boiler, it is a Wild McLean boiler, but unfortunately, this facility here doesn't handle that size. That they actually found it, I believe it's North Carolina is where their other office is, and they actually found a piece down there, so they shipped it over very fast, so had a pretty hefty freight charge. But we should be, in our next meeting, we'll have a confirming only purchase order for, hopefully we'll have it. He hasn't gotten all of his prices yet. So once he has all of his costs, then he'll let me know how much it costs to get it fixed. But I thought for a minute that the plan I put together was going to have to be significantly revised to include a new boiler. So very lucky that that's all they had to do is make a repair.
Alright. They give you an estimate on how long this repair will last?
This repair, he didn't know. No, there's no estimate on how long this will last, but it is in our plan as part of the work that was going to be done once we had a bond in place, that the HVAC of this building would be completely updated. The boiler is from 1989, so it's not that old, but it is old. The air conditioning and air handler, the big loud noise that we hear during the summertime, that stuff is very old. I think it's from the 1960s. So, we might actually be able to save a little bit of money too once we have new equipment in there.
Yeah.
So it is in the plan. I was just hoping I wasn't gonna have to accelerate the plan.
Okay, any other new business?
That was it.
Public comment? Director's comments?
Make a motion to adjourn the session of the Sioux City Water Board.
Second.
Motion second to adjourn, all those in favor?
Aye. Right.